Well, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tisha, and you are here at Tisha Talks Live at 10:45. Thanks so much for spending some of your Friday with me. I have two amazing guests today, and you're going to hear from them in just a second. We've got Bob Burg, the author of The Go-Giver, co-author, and we've got Jeff C. West joining us, and they have a new book out today. So we're going to be talking all about sales strategies. So if you are struggling with sales and trying to overcome objections, then this is the place that you need to be. Before we get started, though, a couple of quick announcements. We do have a sponsor for the show. Proud sponsor is Social Life. So if you are looking for fun things to do in Arizona, highly recommend you download their app. You can get it on Google Play or the App Store. And of course, we have a couple of events coming up if you're again in the Phoenix area. May 29th, I'm kicking off my Social Connect Simplified. It is a happy hour for entrepreneurs and business professionals to just get reacquainted, reconnected, maybe take a load off during your week and come hang out with us. You can join us at socialconnect.world and save the date for that, May 29th at Courthouse in Chandler. And of course, one other thing that I love to do is connecting through community. This is where I team up with local nonprofits and become an extension of their volunteer team and bring my friends and family with me. So if you are always looking for service projects, then this is the place to be as well. My next one is coming up July 26th with $1 Million Teacher Project. We're doing an adult field trip down at the Phoenix Children's Museum. So if you would love to lend a hand, I'm sure they would love to have your hands help out too. So before we get started and bring our guests in, you know how I like to do it. We'd like to start off with a little bit of a dance party. And if you're tuning in off of Jeff's profile, Bob's profile, or my profiles, welcome again. Feel free to ask questions along the way of this broadcast, and you can always catch the replay too. All right, real quick, let's get to that dance party, and then I'll bring my guests in. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I see the comments blowing up. So thank you for coming on board with us. We'll get to the comments in just a second. Today, we are talking about a new book that is on the market, Streetwise to Saleswise, Become Objection-Proof and Beat the Sales Blues. I have in the virtual studio a couple of great friends of mine, new friend, Jeff C. West out of Texas. Hello, Jeff. Welcome.
How are you? Well, thank you. I'm so honored to be here.
I am good. And of course, my good friend, Bob Burg out of Florida. Nice to see you again, Bob.
USA.
Yes. And Bob out of Florida, Jeff out of Texas, and me in Arizona. And this is how we do live streaming. And I'm so fortunate because Bob, I don't know how many of you read the Go-Giver series. I have them all on my bookshelf. I actually lent the book to a girlfriend of mine. I was like, you've got to read this because she's in a way struggling with figuring out sales and relationships. And I was like, and I get to interview the author, even better. So very excited. Bob has been a guest of mine a couple of times on the show, and Jeff is new to the show. So welcome, and so great to have you.
It's really such an honor to be here, and the spirit you already have on your show just is a joy to be here. So thank you.
Oh, so a little known fact, Jeff, my name, Tisha, actually means joy. I looked it up and I was like, yes, that is pretty perfect. Yes, mom named me right. So happy Mother's Day to my mama. I had to break out my one awesome mug today for all you mamas out there. Happy early Mother's Day. All right, before we get started, let's go to some of our comments and see who's in the house with us. We've got Yolanda, she's also in Texas. Jeff, she's out of Frisco. And she says, it's Tisha Talks Live. And Royce Blake here in Arizona. Tisha time has arrived.
Tisha time.
Little dancing. And welcome, Jeff and Bob.
Thank you, Yolanda.
Oh, Royce, the Go-Giver is life-changing.
Royce is a great guy.
Yeah, Great. So happy to have you guys here. Again, don't be shy if you're tuning in off of YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Please say hi and give us a question if you have some questions about our topic today, which is all about sales. So how many of you kind of get freaky with the word sales? You guys are like, no, we got this covered. We got this covered. Jeff, before we get started, I would love for you to just give our audience a little bit of your background, because I know you have a pretty extensive background in sales, Fortune 500 companies. You do a lot of speaking on the topic. You've written a book about it. So tell us a little bit about you.
Well, thank you. I will. I actually, my education, what I had planned to do, perfectly prepared me to go into sales. I have a degree to be a band director. So it really didn't. Got a bachelor's in music education and a master's in music composition. And those two degrees and about a $10 bill will get me a nice cup of coffee at Starbucks. I know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But I actually ended up in sales because when I finished my master's degree in the town that I needed to live in, there weren't any teaching openings. So I just took a job. And at the time, I thought it was by default. But the truth is, looking backwards, it was divine providence. God knew what he was doing. And so I made like 50% more the first year than I would make teaching. And then my wife and I went on and had children. And they all picked up this nasty habit. They wanted to live under a roof and eat real food. And
What?
so I had to keep working something other than teaching. So even though I love teachers and I loved teaching. But I did 30 years in sales and sales leadership. Was in 3 industries, worked my way up to the top in all 3, quite frankly. And the one I enjoyed the most time with was in the insurance industry with a Fortune 500 insurance company, and started an entry-level position. And about 10 years later, I was a state manager, and I was a state manager in Texas for the last 10 years. And I did that before I left that to write and do what we're doing now.
Good. All right. So I have to ask the question, Bob, you can fill us in on this, but how did you two meet? And how did you come up with writing this book? Like, you've written so many books, but now you have another one under your belt.
Well, Jeff and I have been buddies now for probably 20 years, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And we met because I was prospecting. And I called Jeff was my prospect, and we ended up being great friends. He was a client of mine at first, and then he referred me throughout that entire company, I think, and so forth. And we just, we always kept in touch. And Jeff and I are the type, we just, we love each other, but, we love sales. We both love sales.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can have conversations and talk for hours about sales, so it was very natural that, that we really kept in touch. And then when I started with my business partner, Kathy Cajano, when we started the Go Giver Success Alliance, our online mentorship community, Jeff joined, and Jeff met someone there who happened to have been the 5th all-time leading Avon consultant. And they wrote a book together, apparently, called Said the Lady with the Blue Hair.
Yeah, I saw that. That's
it's like all just one long story of connections and friendship, and it's just a really neat thing.
I love that. And a story of collaboration, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
And yeah, the gift that keeps giving. Okay, so let's jump into our topic too. So I saw this question. I'm always wondering, because people are like, I have to get past that gatekeeper in order to go ahead and meet the person I need to meet with. So do you guys have any suggestions on how you would get past the gatekeeper if I were to say, call on a company?
Well, I'm going to give this one to Jeff because he came up with something brilliant. But here's a hint. It begins with a very, very major reframe. And a frame is simply the foundation from which everything else occurs. And if you look at things through the proper frame and you're able to set the proper frame, or sometimes reset a frame, you're 90% of the way toward where you are. So Jeff came up with something very brilliant for that.
Well, as we were working on the book, one of the things that I learned from Bob in his book, Endless Referrals, that I was first exposed to 24 years ago now, I guess it is. He shifted my thought process so well, and it completely plays into this concept. With salespeople, sometimes, especially if it's heavy into outbound prospecting, where you're going to be on the phone or face to face with an administrative assistant or a receptionist of some sort, it can kind of create a little bit of a thing inside the salesperson where they default to a defensive kind of mentality.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the first things that we want to do in that is shift the frame of the salesperson. Instead of looking at that person across from you or on the other end of the phone from you as a gatekeeper to keep you out, let's reframe that a bit. I mean, think about what their job is. Their job is to protect the time of the owner. And if the
Mm-hmm.
owner is seeing every salesperson that comes through the door, they can't get their work done, and so that's to nobody's interest. And so we're all better off if we don't really let ourselves get even slightly upset with that person for doing their job well. That's
Mm-hmm.
okay. But then there's a second shift that we switch. That if you understand the second shift, and again, it really starts with the salesperson, it totally changes the response both in you and in the receptionist. And that's this: uh, get your eyes off yourself and get your focus on what their value is from your proposition.
Mm-hmm.
I think most companies, even though they're very well intended, they kind of miss the mark when it comes to a value proposition, because a value proposition has nothing to do with the transaction. It has nothing to do with what you do above and beyond it. Not your product, not your service, not your company, not even how great you are as a salesperson. And we all know everybody who follows your show is awesome. But what we're talking about here is, how does that person you're talking with, how does their life improve by taking the step you're asking them to take? So if in every conversation you're having, whether it's middle management, whether it's entry level, whether it's the decision maker themselves, focus your words on their and your phrases on how they get their value, what their benefit is from what you're asking them to do, and
Mm-hmm.
you'll get much better results, and it changes their perception. I was in the employee benefit arena for years, and when I learned that, and I learned that when I was talking to that what I used to think of as a gatekeeper, and I told them, this is how if we're here, if you're out of work because you're sick or you're ill or whatever, you're going to be getting money from us. Now you may not need that, and they would always say, oh yes I do. And then what I had done is I had let them know, this is how you benefit. Would you
Mm-hmm.
help me meet the right person? And it turns that gatekeeper into a key holder who holds the keys
Oh,
to the kingdom to let you in. And so everybody's industry is a little different, but if you can really peg that in your mind, it'll get you much greater results.
I love that. Turning that into a benefit for them that they see. Yes, I like that.
Absolutely.
Okay, good, good. Oh, I want to say hi to Luis, who's joining us out of Ventura. Hello, Luis. Says good morning, everyone. Happy
Hi, Luis.
groovy
Hi there.
Friday. And Royce saying your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment.
Thank you,
And
Royce.
yes, from the Go Giver. Oh, perfect. I love that he's quoting your books, even.
I know.
Wow,
What an
doing his
honor to know that.
homework.
Mhm.
Oh, good stuff. All right. So we want to talk about objections for a little bit, because in your book, you talk about how to be objection proof. So, what are some strategies, 5 steps that you can become objection proof?
Well, let's begin once again with resetting the frame,
Mm-hmm.
because objections tend to be the bane of the salesperson's existence.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They live in fear of objections. Now, when you think about it, logically, there shouldn't be an issue. I mean, probably within the first 2 or 3 sales conversations you ever have with someone, or the first few times you approach someone, or just from your company training or whatever, you'll probably hear 90% of all the objections you're ever going to get. So
Right.
you would think, again, if we were talking logically, you'd think, okay, I know what the objection is, so I prepare for it. And then when they give me the objection, I say the perfect response and they buy. Except that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Why not? First, because of the frame that we set, and that is that we think we're supposed to overcome objections. Well, there's a challenge with that. Nobody wants to be overcome.
Mm-hmm.
To overcome is to convince, right? Convince comes from the Latin root convincere, which is to conquer. Now, does any prospect want to be conquered by their salesperson, told they're wrong? Right?
I highly
No.
doubt that.
Right. So the ego is going to take over, and they're going to, and it doesn't matter or who's right or wrong, they're going to hold fast to their position. Okay, so that's the first reason. So the second reason is that often the prospect themselves doesn't really even know the actual reason for the objection. Remember, as the salesperson, whether you're a coach, whether you're a realtor, it doesn't matter what you go through the process every single day. You're totally comfortable with it. You know it. They don't. It may be once in a lifetime thing for them, or once a year, or 5 times in their whatever, but they're not comfortable with it, right? So they don't necessarily know what they're supposed to ask. They don't know how they're supposed to necessarily feel. A lot, again, they're confused. They don't want to appear ignorant, and they don't know if it's a. So what happens is, if you remember the old Spider-Man comic books and in the movie, he had what was called Spidey sense. And that is, he could sense there was something wrong, even though he didn't know exactly what it was. Well, that's what happens with them. They sense there's just something that's not quite what they're comfortable with.
Right.
They don't exactly know it. So what do? They blurt out the first objection they think of. And it could be, your price is too high. I've got to talk with my uncle's best friend's neighbor's, whatever, or I need to think about it, or yes, I really want to do this, but let's wait a few months. All right. And all those things that they come out with, because they don't really want to say no, but they're not confident enough to say yes. So what happens is that if we accept the objection they give us as the actual objection, let's say they say it's just too expensive, your price is too high. Well, we can give the smoothest response to that objection. We can give the smoothest response to your price is too high, and we've probably just answered the wrong objection. Right? So again, you're left. And all this is through trying to overcome objections. Let's shift the frame. Instead of overcoming objections, let's work within the objection. Let's work effectively within the objection in order to get to the actual root and heart of the actual objection, and then partner with our prospect in order to move forward and advance the sale.
Good stuff, Bob. Okay, so we're talking about advancing the sale. And is there a phrase that you would recommend to people to accelerate their ability to set the appointment, to get the sale? What would you say to them?
Well, Jeff, take this, because this is really where fusion points come into play, I think.
Yeah, your goal when you're wanting anyone to move forward in the sales process is to take advantage of how the neurology of the brain works. When Bob and I are doing things together, I talk about fusion points. And basically, all that it really amounts to is there's a science in how every single human makes a decision. Neurologically speaking, it works pretty much the same way. So when if someone's making a decision, the part of our brain that creates emotion communicates with the part of our brain that processes logic. Without that communication, people can't make the decision anyway. It stalls. But with that connection, it produces a decision. Now, if it's a negative emotional experience in the brain, like fear, mistrust, something about it that just doesn't feel right to them, it sends a somatic marker down into our torso, and it creates what's called a physiological change that the somatic marker does. And so we don't like the way that feels. It was yucky. We didn't like it. We're not going forward. I'm going to close my arms. I'm not doing it. But when that happens, it's what I call a collision point. So a collision point is that negative emotion and logic. People will say, no, they're not going to move forward. Nothing you can do is going to do that at that point. Almost nothing. But the opposite is true as well. If it's a positive emotional experience like joy, love, a sense of security, a sense of trust, then what happens is the brain still sends that somatic marker down into our body, but it produces an experience that we love. We like the way that feels. It's comfortable with us taking that next step. It's exactly how every great business relationship starts and every great personal relationship starts. It's always the same. It's that decision. Well, that positive emotional connection with logic, it's what I refer to as a fusion point. And a fusion point is that moment in time when logic and positive emotion merge and ignite, and it creates energy, and it creates persistence and acceleration. And so when someone is trying to get the prospect to take that next step, it's helpful to build a sales model where you're constantly, even before you ask for that first meeting, you're constantly creating positive emotional experiences for that prospect, so that when you do invite them to visit with you to see if they can take advantage of their value from your proposition, they've got that when they combine that logic with those three positive emotional touches, you see a great rise in the people that will move forward with you. Some prospects are easy. They know they have a need that they see you as a solution. You're gold to them. Others, they don't see it the same way, but you can increase the response in all of them if you'll find ways to provide those positive touches in your prospecting.
Mm-hmm. I love that too. Louise saying action, reaction. Yeah, we love it. We love it when clients come to us and they're ready. Like they know they want to work with you. They're like, where do I sign? There's no questions asked. Just send me the proposal and let's get going. Like I know about that. Like I don't know about how many people don't love that. But yeah,
Right.
it is. You're right. It's the objection of like, well, can I think about it? Can I give it 6 months? I know I've always had those questions too, where someone has approached me, but they're not ready. But it doesn't mean, and we talked about this before, but it doesn't mean that they're not ever going to be ready. It
Right.
just means that they might need a little bit more time.
Right. And your
So,
goal, even before you start talking business, and then once you've talked business forever, as long as it's a client that you want,
mhm.
is to keep creating those positive emotional experiences and linking that with the logic of what you do.
Yeah,
One of the
exactly.
things that
Bob?
you want to, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So one of the things you want to do is to do a very thorough discovery. The discovery session is the most important part of the sales conversation. The discovery is simply nothing more than discovering what that person needs, wants, and desires. Okay, you learn this through, you discover this through asking questions and really listening, while understanding that even as they answer, that because we come from different sets of beliefs,
Mhm.
what they say might, and what we hear might not be what they meant. So we've got to be able to tactfully and empathetically ask them to clarify. We do it in such a way, we might say, just for my own clarification, when you say, or just to make sure I'm interpreting this correctly. So again, we're putting the onus on us through an
Mhm.
iMessage, and we ask them to clarify. Now, we also, as part of the discovery, it's also a matter of knowing our marketplace so well that we can provide insights when they have a problem that they don't even know they have.
Mhm.
And through our insights and counseling, we can help them to mitigate that problem, or they might have a strength and opportunity that they can't see. Because remember, they're too
Yeah.
close to it, right? And we're
Mhm.
the professional. So we can see this, so we can maybe educate them as to how they can leverage that and even take advantage of that. There's 5 basic parts, as we're, just in the way we communicate with someone. First is mastering our own emotions.
Mhm.
That's where it begins. It's understanding the clash of belief systems. They're coming from a different viewpoint than we are because they're different people. It's again setting the frame. It's communicating with tact and empathy. And then the last part is letting go of having to be right, which in a sense means nothing more than losing your attachment to the results, which allows you to go into learning mode instead of defensive mode.
Mhm.
Would you like me to take you through a very, very brief look at how we would combine all 5 of those in one objection?
Sure. Go for it.
And this is just, we'll do this just very quickly. I know you coach a lot of coaches.
Mhm.
And so let's say you have a business coach and they're about to have a conversation, sales conversation with a prospect, and they can tell that there's a little bit of an uneasiness in the air. And
Mhm.
the person, the prospective client, has a little bit of an attitude, and you can't really tell exactly what it is, but there's something there. And finally, when you both sit down, the person says, you're like the 4th business coach I've talked to, and each one of them has given me all these reasons why they're the best and they're the only ones. And I just want you to know I'm not some easy mark. I'm going to, right. So what have they done? They've come with a frame that's adversarial. Now
Uh-huh.
they've done, so we master our emotions. If we buy into that frame, we're in trouble, because then we're either defensive, or we're overly aggressive, or
Mm.
we're kowtowing to, right, and none of that is productive. So we have to control our own emotions. Now we understand next the clash of belief systems. They're coming from a belief system because this is what they've experienced,
Right.
that business coaches are kind of pushy and telling them what they need to do, and that, right? Now we're going to reset the frame. We'll come back to that in a second. Or actually, let's do this right now. We reset the frame by saying, and let's say his name is Dan. Dan, I'm so sorry that that happened. Thank you for sharing that with me. Please know that whether or not I'm the right solution for you, we can't possibly know without both of us exploring deeper and discovering whether we're a good match.
Sure.
And exactly what you are looking to accomplish. So please know our conversation is for both of us to understand that. And if it turns out we're a fit, great. I'll be honored to work with you. If not, that's okay as well. And so you reframe this from one of two adversaries to one of two allies who both have the same goal, to do what's in their best interest,
Best
which is what
interest.
they cared about. You used tact and empathy in order to do that, and you gave him the out. You let go of having to be right. You said, you gave him the out or back door. If we're the right fit, great. I'd love to be honored to do it. If not, that's also okay. And we don't give the person the out or back door in order for them to take it. We give them the out or back door in order for them to feel comfortable enough with us and the situation to not feel the need to take it.
I love that. That right there too, Bob, because when you say that, like, I'm honored to work with you, but if we're not the right fit, that's okay. Like, then you leave on good terms. You're still friends. We're not running for the doors. Yeah. Good stuff.
And the chances are they're probably going to be much more likely to want to work with you.
Oh, I know. I know. Yeah. I had a client recently, a realtor who had met with about 4 or 5 people before me. And he always told me that it felt like that he was doing them a favor by talking to them. And he's like, I don't like that feeling. I'm like, no, that is not the feeling that I want you to have with me. Like this, I want to grow in this relationship together, want to work together. And I ended up getting the contract. So you're right. Like, we shouldn't go into a sales presentation being like, I'm God's gift. You want to work with me. There is nobody else that can do it as good as I can. You shouldn't come in with that air, but it's more like, I'm here to support you. I want to listen to you. So I like what you said about discovery, because so many of us, we want to do all the talking, but it's like, no, I'm here to listen. So you can tell me what you need and I can figure out what to do for your best interest, because everybody is different. Nobody's problems are exactly the same, and you need to be heard.
Amen.
I love how Jeff puts it. He says, when you ask the right questions, they will tell you what they need.
Yeah. Right questions. Right questions. All right. I want to turn it over to Yolanda, who has a couple of comments up here. Listen attentively and acknowledge their concerns. Don't interrupt or dismiss their points.
Perfect.
Yes. Good stuff. I think Yolanda might have already read this book. What do you think?
Yeah. When she says sometimes objections stem from misunderstandings, well, basically every objection is a misunderstanding. And it's the clash of two beliefs where each of them thinks the other person is thinking a different thing. Because remember, we all come from our own set of beliefs, our own, what I call our unconscious operating system. And we tend to believe that everyone else thinks or sees the world basically the same way we do, which makes sense. It's all we know. So we assume. So somebody can say, if someone says, the house is far from town, and the other person says, or let's say, a realtor tells someone who is asking about a house, well, that house is kind of far from town. And then the person finds out it's 10 miles away. That's not far from town. Oh, yeah, it is. No, it isn't. Yeah, it is. Well, what are they both saying? Well, one of them, the realtor who grew up in the city, to them, 10 miles away is a long way from town.
Yeah.
And for the person who grew up in the rural, area where it's 50 miles to town, 10 miles to town is very, very close. So that's why what's very important is you always ask people to define their terms. Now, you don't use that language necessarily, but again, you use the language of, just for my own clarification, or just so I understand exactly what you mean when you say X, what exactly do you mean, or what are you thinking, or Could you describe that to me? And
Mhm.
then basically you've got two people defining the same word the same way.
Yeah, ask better questions. I like that. And even just stepping back, and if you don't understand what they're saying, could you explain that to me? Is this what you mean? To just make sure that you're on the right path. Good
Mhm.
stuff. All right, I have a fun question for you guys on this Friday. And then we'll get into some shameless plugs. But you've just made the biggest sale of your life. And I know you both have probably been in that situation. What do you do? What's your next step? How do you celebrate the big sale?
Jeff?
Uh, I celebrated it normally by maybe having a dinner with my spouse, but I think the biggest thing that I did is when I closed the sale, I basically in my mind just added a new member to my own family, and I needed to keep building that relationship with them.
Good stuff. Right. Bob, how about you?
Yeah, I'm not sure I necessarily celebrated by doing anything physically that I wouldn't normally do, but I think I saw it more as Jeff did. Like, what's the next step? Well, it's send a personalized thank you note. It's make sure I know everything about them that I possibly can. Look at what the next step is because yeah, they're a family member, and we want to uh, make them feel good about themselves. So, it's always a good feeling to have a sale take place. Um, but I think it's the feeling itself. You know what I'm saying? That just
Mhm.
you feel good about it. So I think because me personally, I'm sort of a boring person. I don't really go out and do a lot of stuff,
You
So
are not a boring person.
no, I actually am not. I like it like
I'm
that. I'm
telling
fine
you,
with it.
Bob, you are
But
not a boring person. Well, I'll tell you, when I get a sale, I definitely put the happy music on and start
I
dancing.
bet you do. That is awesome.
You've got to celebrate. I'm really big into celebrating those wins. So every sale is a win. Awesome. All right. Well, let's turn it over to some shameless plugs. I know you guys have some things coming up. I have your link to your book. How can people reach out to you? And then we'll wind it down.
Yeah, Jeff, you want to share about the
Okay.
Saleswise Live?
We of course we have the book that you've seen going across the bottom, Streetwise to Saleswise, become objection proof and beat the sales blues. Easiest way to get that information is go to streetwise to saleswise.com. But the other thing, and I'll start it, but I want my co-author to wrap it up with it. Bob Burg and Kim Anjali and I have a event planned in West Palm Beach, Florida, that is going to absolutely be a game changer for so many people. It's not just something where you go watch some people speak on stage and you take notes and you wish them well and you wish you could see them more. This is going to be more of an intimate setting. We're going to be working side by side with people to equip them in such ways that when they get out of there, not only are they nailing they understand the science of how their prospects and their clients and their team members will make the decision to stay with them, but they're equipped with some strategies on how to make that happen and everything. And with Bob's endless referral system and his whole concept of becoming objection proof, it all does those things. It's why everything works. But I'll let Bob wrap it up.
All right.
Yeah, well, I mean, you think about it, in the sales process, there's a few things we've got to be able to do. One, you've got to know who your market is, and you've got to be able to meet them. And not only do you have to meet them, you need to be able to connect with them on a heart-to-heart level. Okay. You need to be able to take them through the sales process. You need to lead them through the sales process. You need to ask the right questions, the questions that are going to help them to basically tell themselves what they need. You need to be able to work through the objections, and you need to be able to complete the sale. You need to be able to close a sale in a way that's gentle and in a way that's very natural so that you enjoy the process. You need to then have personal walking ambassadors for your business who are going to refer you to others. And Kim Anjali, who was a $65 million producer with Cisco back in the day, before owning her own powerful insurance company, she's going to show you how to do that through her system that she's put together. So here's basically what we've done. Jeff, Kim, myself have taken our three strengths and we've combined them together for this event. It's at an absolutely beautiful resort. It's what's called an autograph hotel. It's right on the Intracoastal, right across from the yachts in West Palm Beach. So the experience at the hotel itself is beautiful. And it's going to be, as just said, it's going to be an intimate, it's probably going to be 20 to 25 people. So it's going to be the three of us working with you hand in hand. And the goal is that your business is going to be a lot more fun, a lot less stressful, and a lot more profitable.
Ooh, that's good. All right. So if you are in West Palm Beach, so tell me the dates for that again.
Yeah,
June.
well, we'll have everybody, people will be coming from all over the country, but yeah, I mean, if you're in Florida listening to this,
Even
by all
better,
means,
yeah.
so no, just come. By the way, for this weekend too, what we're doing is we're paying for your hotel rooms.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like, this is like, just come to this thing.
Just come.
I'm so glad you did.
Yes.
You have to register by Sunday night. I think that is
Sunday
Okay.
night, midnight or something. Yeah.
So
Register by Sunday night. The event is in June. West Palm Beach is beautiful.
Mhm.
So, and then you get to hang out with Kim, Bob, and Jeff as they walk you through how to become a better salesperson, how to be better at referrals. Like, to me, that sounds like a no-brainer. Like, that sounds like a good time.
for most people, I think if we can help them increase their sale by at least one, it's going to more than offset all their expenses. And we're not going to do it. We're going to help them do a lot more than just one, make it very regular.
Right. And I see Christopher Stinnett, he owns a inspection company out here in Arizona, just gave us a thumbs up. So thanks so much, Christopher, for joining us today. Good stuff, guys. Thank you so much for being here and taking some of your Friday to be with me live, and to all of our guests who joined and asked questions and commented and gave some love. Love you guys for that. And you can reach out to Jeff and Bob. They're both on LinkedIn. And anywhere else, YouTube, websites, all the stuff.
Yeah. Just, I think those sites that you were kind enough to put on there is fine.
Yeah.
Facebook, Twitter, whatever. So we're everywhere. We're everywhere.
We're everywhere. We're places you don't even want us to be.
So funny. Twitter, formerly Twitter, now X.
X.
Yes. And I know we just got another thumbs up by Timothy Whitman. Hey, Timothy, good to see you. Timothy works for a company and does sales with Engrave My Memories out here in the Tempe area. So Timothy, if you're watching, get to West Palm Beach in Florida to hang out with these guys in June to learn all their sales, referrals, secrets, how to grow your business and do it with a lot more fun.
And Tisha Marie, I want to wish you a wonderful, wonderful Mommy's Day coming up.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All the moms that are on the call. Happy Mother's Day.
One awesome mom. All of you ladies out there, all you mamas, you guys are so awesome. Yeah, motherhood. Oh my gosh. Before I tear up and cry, it's a lot. It's good times. It's flying by. I just was telling these guys that I'm actually heading out of town today to go celebrate my 20-year wedding anniversary, which just floors my mind. Like, a picture just popped up on Facebook of my son when he was in pre-K, and now he's going into his junior year. And I'm like,
wow.
I feel like I still kind of look the same. So must be that, those genes from my own mama. But
I think it's that wonderful smile that you bring to the table that we all love so much.
Thank
your smile makes me smile.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to put that down. My smile will make you smile. Probably very true. Very true. All right. I know we have a couple of comments, so let's just get to those and then we'll wrap it up as well. Hello, Timothy. Yeah, good to see you. Mr. Burg, Bob Burg, always great wisdom. Thank you. And Yolanda saying thanks again to Bob Burg and Jeff West. All right, guys. Thanks so much for being here again. Have a great weekend. Good luck with your upcoming event. I'll be sure to spread the word as well, because I know people should get to that. And I mean, to me, that would be such a great honor to have all of you in the room and to be able to get my hotel comped. What? That to me sounds like a great vacation, and getting the knowledge and wisdom from the both of you and from Kim. So yes, highly recommend it. All right, guys, have a great weekend. Happy Friday, and we'll catch you guys next time on Tisha Talks Live. I will be back next Friday with another special guest, Daryl Snow, who's joining me. So have a great one. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.